So, when I was 13, I actually had strep throat. And at the time, I also was in seventh grade and I was extremely conscientious about my body. I was a figure skater and I noticed that I was gaining weight in my midsection, which I was very conscientious about since I had to wear those little skating dresses, if I'm sure you guys can imagine. And so as a result of being conscientious, I started wearing very big baggy clothing because I thought I was getting fat, and I didn't want people to see that or know that about me. And so because I had strep throat, my mom took me to the doctor. My mom's a nurse, just retired from 43 years of nursing, having a hard time sitting still. But I went to the doctor, and as he was examining me with strep throat, he felt my stomach and he said, "Is your belly always this hard?" I didn't really know how to respond to that, but what happened, it turns out, was I actually had a cyst. And I had such a large ovarian cyst. And guys, if this is gross for you, you can tune it out, but I'm going to try to keep this as least medical as possible. It was so large that the doctor was actually concerned about me traveling to Florida later that week for my dad's conference. And imagine a 13-year-old being told that they couldn't go to Disney World. I was beside myself upset. So I ended up convincing the doctor to allow me to go to Disney World if I promised to not go on any rides that pregnant women could not go on. We ended up then going to Disney, and I remember one of the most upsetting moments of my life was actually we were standing in line for Nickelodeon Studios, and a girl that I didn't know asked me how old I was, and then she asked me if I was pregnant. So at the tender age of 13, I was extremely conscientious and self-conscious about my body because this medical issue had been uncovered. So I ended up coming back after Disney, and I had surgery, and this was in April of 1997. So it's been 20 years since this all happened. And the doctor, once they opened me up in the surgery room, noticed that the cyst was actually so large that they couldn't just remove it with scopes. It had 4 liters of fluid in it. So if you guys think about 2 large pop bottles, it was very, very large. 4 liters of fluid in it. It was 9 pounds, so roughly the size of more than most babies. And in doing that, they figured out that there were other cysts that were growing behind the ovary. They removed the ovary, and I have this lovely scar now that's actually led me to compete in fitness competitions because I needed to prove to myself that my body was good enough. So after all of this had happened, the doctor was concerned for these cysts that were popping up, and I was never diagnosed with what's called PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, because I never had any pain. That's the weirdest part about all of this. But every year I would go back to the doctor and have an ultrasound, and I would always have these benign cysts on the only remaining ovary. So I was pretty sure that by the time I was ready to start a family, that I wouldn't be able to have my own children. And I swallow hard as I say that, because this was something that at the tender age of 13, I had already recognized was going to be an issue with my health. And I decided that I was going to adopt. And so that idea of adoption has been one that I've now had for 2 decades. This has really shaken me up, the fact that I am now 8 months pregnant, because you can imagine thinking something for longer in your life than you've not thought about it. And so with this story, I started to actually develop in junior high a very unhealthy relationship with food, because people always wanted to fatten me up. After having this surgery, I was about the same height I am now, 5'2", but I weighed like 81 pounds. It was crazy. So my teacher would say things like, "Well, today in math class, we're going to," "Oh, not you, Sarah. You're going to sit in the back and you're going to eat this cake that we brought you from the teacher's meeting." So by unhealthy means, I was fattened up. It makes me feel like I'm from like Hansel and Gretel or something. But every year I was monitored. So every year I would go into the doctor and I would have these ultrasounds to make sure that the cysts that were existing on my only existing ovary were benign. And by the age of 19, my hormones were acting a little bit funky. And so in my first year of college, I saw a doctor who put me on birth control because they wanted to regulate my hormones. This is kind of funky, but I had one ovary, and normally our ovaries, they're playing a little game of double dutch, like this one passes an egg, this one passes an egg, and this one that I had on the right side was releasing 2 eggs a month, so was basically working in quadruple time. So as a result, I was put on birth control at the tender age of 19, and I was on that for 14 years. So when you combine this factor of I only had one ovary, which I didn't think I would still have by the time that I met a husband and was ready to conceive, when you combine the fact that I was for 14 years having this problem, was something that I just had accepted that I probably was going to have to adopt and that I wasn't going to have my own children. About 3 years ago, some of you are familiar, I started with clean eating and supplementation, and what I found was that it's been working for me for 3 years. I have very regulated hormone levels, but what was the biggest surprise of all, and what I wanted to talk to you guys today about, and that's what I posted, was that I was going to have, that I had this unexpected pregnancy, because when we decided that we wanted to start our own family, I discontinued taking my birth control, and almost immediately my little ovary that could produced a healthy egg, and we were pregnant almost immediately. And I really just, I can't believe I'm sitting in front of you telling you this, because for 20 years I thought I couldn't have my own children. And I wanted to share this message for people who maybe want to start a family, or are struggling to continue their family, or struggling to start a family, to let you know that there are naturopathic solutions. You should look into them. I'm happy to help anyone with anything I can be of help with. As I said, for 20 years, I accepted the fact that I wouldn't have my own children. And now he's due a month from tomorrow. So it's been the healthiest pregnancy I ever could have imagined. I'm still teaching pregnancy fitness classes. When I saw my doctor, she actually said I have the healthiest blood work she's ever seen. And she's now promoting my pregnancy fitness classes as well. So I thank you so much, Shannon. I wanted to give hope to people who may be in a place where their bodies cannot do what it is that their hearts most want to do. And that is what I want to help support people with. So I really, really appreciate you guys being here. I plan to teach my pregnancy fitness classes all the way up until the end. I am almost 36 weeks and I'm still running an Orange Theory, which is absolutely insane because I'm not a runner. Thank you so much, Patrick. Thank you, Madi. Nice to see you. But if you guys are just catching this now, you can go ahead and watch from the beginning. It is a crazy story. I do walk with a limp because I'm a uni-ovary. Just kidding. But the world works in mysterious ways, and I've certainly learned that through my own experiences. I so appreciate you guys being here, being supportive. This definitely is a vulnerable topic. No one wants to think about the fact that once upon a time they were ill, or that they're ill now. And I'm definitely in a better place since I've found what's been so helpful for me and so many others. And if this message speaks to you, or you know somebody that this message speaks to, please feel free to share it out. I greatly appreciate you guys being here, and I want to wish you guys lots of love. Oh, an extra win. I'm wearing non-maternity clothing right now, and somehow it buttons and it still fits over the bow. So thank you guys so much for being here. Lots of love.